I'd wanted to move for a while and just didn't know where. Every time I visited a place in the States, I'd be like, I could live here. Yeah, I could do this. I could do that. It was just such a different feeling with Amsterdam. Had to move here. Oh, you feel like you're bleeding money and because it's the holidays and all the stuff, and things are just slow. Things are just slow right now. And I'm like, you will be okay. This is the answer. This is the answer that you need to take your life off this track and put it on the one that you really do want to be on, but you just don't know how.
If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself first, just kind of let us know, set the foundation here.
Well, I'm Loreen. I'm from Chicago originally. It's funny when you start talking to you about yourself and you're like, well, where do you start?
Right. I know, right? Yes.
How far back you want me to go? I was born on October 25th. No.
Right.
I guess the highlight to my story is that I'm from Chicago and now I'm living in Amsterdam.
Yes.
Yes. And
yeah. So what made you decide to make the big move from Chicago, Illinois to Amsterdam, Netherlands?
So the story goes, I was going on a trip with a friend to Denmark. This big, amazing trip that even that trip, I look back on it and I'm like, how did that even happen? How did this group of, I have to count how many of us there were. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. How did 7 people pull out their phones, go, yeah, this time works for us. This date to this date, that sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. And then it happened. Like it wasn't just like blah, 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 talking or anything. It actually happened. So yes, this trip to Denmark.
Been living boldly.
I know, right? The catalyst for all the things. And when one goes to Europe, you think like, I should spend an extended period of time there. So I tacked on an extra week before the Denmark trip and literally looked at a map and was like, what is close to Denmark? Not knowing my geography as well as I should in Europe. I didn't want to bounce around to different countries. I wanted to just like kind of be in a place and like live in it, just enjoy it, versus like seeing. I didn't want it to be exhausting where you see every, touristy thing here and then you move to the next place and go every touristy thing. I just wanted to like just be. And Amsterdam was the most convenient in relation to Denmark. So Amsterdam was not on my top 10 list of places to go to. I, like most people, I think thought, oh, prostitutes and weed. 2 things I'm really not interested in right now. So, because that's all you do there, right? But I'll try it out anyways. So booked this week-long trip to Amsterdam, and it was end of April, beginning of May. The weather was typical Amsterdam weather, where it's like misty in the air, 45-ish degrees. Like I remember bringing like this quilted like fall spring coat and then like another spring coat that was like more of a windbreaker / maybe raincoat-ish. And I wore those 2 coats layered the whole trip because it was cold. And I loved
that damp.
It was damp. It was really damp. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From the ocean.
I loved every minute of it. I didn't love the weather, but it didn't faze me. I wasn't like, oh, this is terrible. Get me out of here. I rode bikes. I met the greatest people, some that were even like just visiting Americans. The local people were so nice. I loved the architecture here. I love that it feels like that's American small town, downtown Main Street that you go to where it's slightly historical. There's a lot of history there. The people there have been there for a long time. It just feels really cultural and historic and deep. And that's what Amsterdam feels like to me, but it's just for miles. Like the whole city is just history and that cute downtown Main Street look, one building after another. And then canals and the water, like being by water, just I'm a water sign, I need it. So there were all these like elements, the flowers. I went to the flower gardens at Keukenhof and so all these the tulips. Yeah, it was tulip season. So all these elements that I was like, oh my God, I need to live here. Like, not that, oh, I could live here. That would be neat. It was like, hold on to your mother's leg and don't want to let go as she drags you across the floor. Like, that's how I felt about Amsterdam. Like, I don't want to leave here. I don't want to go to Denmark. Those people, that's a big enough group. They don't need me there. I will stay here. I wanted to cancel that part of the trip. I remember feeling so incredibly sad to leave when I had to leave. And was only here a week, if that, maybe 5 days. So just that meant something. I had wanted to move for a while and just didn't know where. Every time I visited a place in the States, I'd be like, I could live here. Yeah, I could do this. I could do that. But nothing that I was like, oh, I'm going to start researching this out and investigate and how can I move my business here or whatever. It was just such a different feeling with Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I had to move here.
The culture is just slow paced and present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wish I had better like notes or had written a journal or something while I was here. Like I did, but it was more like, this is what I did today, blah, blah, blah. Not like, oh my God, this is how I'm feeling. But I don't know if I was as aware of that during that time because I don't remember if I worked or not. Like maybe, I'm sure I brought a computer with. I'm sure I pulled that out every now and then to like check on some things. So I don't know if you can notice the work-life balance until you're actually in it. But I think just in general, everybody gives off this vibe of just being more relaxed about things. Like nobody's in a rush to get anywhere or do anything. There's just like little instances. I remember interactions with people that's like, someone that would stop me and be like, I remember going through a gate to get onto public transportation. I think I had my suitcase with me at the time. And this gentleman was like, hey, why don't you go through this one? It's, larger. So your suitcase will fit through easier. And I was like, thank you, sir. Like, we didn't need to tell me to do that.
Right.
Part of it is like now knowing the Dutch, it's very like just pragmatic of him. But all the same, like I was like, like stopping to notice that I'm, wheeling this big luggage through this thing. Like, I don't know, just little things like that. That was just a lifestyle thing for me. I mean, the museums here are great. Like even the museum system, like I've got a museum card now and I can go to museums all over the country for free, including Van Gogh and the Rijksmuseum, which is their like art institute of sorts. Sure. So to just have it so accessible feels really nice too. And I think that maybe was part of it. Just obviously they're very heavy art culture here, so it's appreciated. I don't know if it was something that necessarily drew me to the location.
We need to make this a reality instead of just thinking about it. So can you explain a little bit about that pivotal moment where you're like, I'm doing this? Like, what were the steps that you got to?
So again, my memory is not great and I'm not a good note taker of things, journaling and that kind of stuff. But I think it was also a perfect storm that happened. This was in 2019 that I made this visit. 2018 was a really good year for me in business, and it was really hard because I worked so much and so hard. My business, I split my had split myself into two with wedding planning. I did day of coordination, and then doing my business with doing artwork and personalized things for weddings. And I remember like 2018, I had really good couples, like really, I'm still friends with some of them. And just like that was really good and deep. And then my business really, like the amount of stuff I was making and cranking out, and I had a studio space and renting things. And I lived at my business almost. Like it was just so intense. It was so good, but it was so intense, and it was not sustainable from a mental and physical aspect. And I think also, like, I'm 42 right now, and so back how many years ago? 4 years ago now. So I was 38. So in this weird age bracket of like, are you gonna have kids? You're not gonna have kids. Yeah, are you gonna get married? You're not gonna get married. All those milestone points that we have in life. I think I just started thinking about that kind of stuff more, and I had so put my life on hold to nurse that business. And which I saw the fruits of my labor. I did. But again, not sustainable. So I think when this trip came along, and again, don't remember if I brought my computer with, I'm almost positive I did, because I was surrounded by other small business owners that probably couldn't like loosen the reins for, 2 weeks. I think just not being able to ever feel like you can step away from it, and that like, how do you change this? I also felt like if I went somewhere in the States and moved, it could easily follow me. Because of the community that I was involved with is so strong and is really supportive, even from from a national basis. There's just organizations. One that comes, it's called WIPA, and it's wedding something. I don't know, but there's a chapter in Chicago, but it's nationwide too. So like, I could just easily go to a networking event there and just pick up there, and it might take a little time. Yep. But my business would follow me anywhere. And what did I have to change in my lifestyle to make it different? I didn't know. And I don't think the American society supports it as well. It's a go. It's productivity based. And I was productive. I was winning at being productive. And nobody was telling me, whoa, slow down. It was more like, how are you not able to do it all? How are you not able to date and do this? And so I think it was just pure burnout at that point. So when Amsterdam came up, it was like, this is where I have to move, just from like an atmosphere environment. And also, I think this is the variable that I need to pull me out of what I'm doing, because I don't know how else to do it. I mean, we could easily say, as a business owner, you're your own boss, and just stop, take a break, turn it off. But it
doesn't work that way.
It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And it's like a whole, if you're not working, you're not making money. So if you're not making money, what are you doing? There's no wheels. I was a one-man show, so there's nobody else taking over for the time being while I can go do something else. So I think that was just a big, big thing for me with Amsterdam, was like, this is the answer. This is the answer that you need to take your life off this track and put it on the one that you really do want to be on, but you just don't know how. And you'll at least like the environment you're living in. And that was enough for me. So yeah, I started just researching, how do I even do this? Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about the Netherlands. Like, who talks about the Netherlands? It's like super small country. Like, again, besides weed and prostitution, no one's talking about the Netherlands. So I did a lot of research. about being an American and what I can do there, what are the connections, what kind of work stuff. I was slightly naive at the beginning for sure.
It's always good to be a little naive.
A little bit, just a little bit. Doesn't make it seem as scary, maybe.
Right.
I mean, I'd had my business for 11 or 12 years at that point. So I had not done a resume. I had not applied for a job ever. And so one of the ways I knew to get out here was, you just have to have somebody hire you and ship you out here. They'll sponsor you, sponsor your visa. Oh, if you get a bonus, they'll move everything for you and all that. So, I mean, I just started applying to things, thinking that, okay, that this is also me changing the story. This is me getting out of taking my business abroad and somehow getting into the same rut. I'm going to work for somebody else. That's what I want to do, work for somebody else. So I started applying for jobs. And I think when that's a whole mental other thing.
Yes, it is.
Right? Like, I'm not suitable for anything. I don't know how to do anything. And it's like, well, wait a second. You have run a business for 12 years. You do know accounting, you know marketing, you know communication, you know stuff, but you're just not used to doing it in a more either corporate level or just outside of the bubble that you're already in. So that was interesting. I feel like once I did some research in that, I think it scared me a little bit, and I was like, maybe I just need to just dive in. Like, I need this so bad, and I'm committed to this idea now. Then maybe I just go there and I figure it out. And I mean, I love the idea of it too. It's not who I am. I know.
You found a spot that you were drawn to. You found a location that you felt was going to kind of check the boxes of you getting out of the rut that you were in. But really, what were some of the biggest fears and doubts that you did have around making this big move?
And that's an easy answer. My fear is always failure. It's always failure. It's
very common.
I mean, on all different layers, that I was somehow, I mean, it's really interesting now to look back at how the process happened, because my fears, I almost it's like a video game when I was battling these fears along the way and how can I overcome them? Because so when I finally was yes, yeah, I'm doing this, and I almost had to have I'm an overthinker, and I had to just stop overthinking certain things, or just blindly in a trance go through things. I'm just gonna do this. I'm hypnotized by. I was hypnotized by Amsterdam and just going with the motions. It's that is almost what I needed to do, from the fear getting greater than me and stopping me from doing it. So, I remember very vividly, my lease for my studio was up in February, I think it was. Yeah. February 2021. Or no, 2020, I'm sorry. And at this point I was I'm doing this. I remember in December or something, this is real. I'm doing it. I'm going to sell all my stuff in the studio because I had a bunch of rentals and things. I'm not going to sign this lease again. I'm doing this. I'm moving. And buying that ticket is the biggest thing, right? That's yeah, you can get rid of all your things and everything, but until you actually buy the ticket, you're not actually going over there. So I remember being in my studio and just had sold a bunch of stuff out of it. My mom was there, and I was and my parents, I think it was when I was telling them this kind of stuff, they were oh, okay, it's a great idea, sure. And in the back of that head, I was she's never going to do it. She's never going to just, we're not going to crush her dreams. Of course, we're going to support her. She's probably never going to do it, because I'm a simmerer. I also have these ideas and I simmer in them for a long time until got to rip the Band-Aid off. But I kept doing all the actions for this. again, in like that trance like mode. And I think that was my protection of being just in this trance of it. But at this, at the studio with my mom, and I was like, we're gonna sit down together, and I want you to be here when I buy this ticket. If we're doing it today. And she's like, oh, okay. And then just empty studio, things are just rolling out because I'm selling it. And we sat down and purchased the one-way ticket to Amsterdam for April of 2020. And that was, great. It was the biggest, like, oh, okay, did it. And then COVID happened, so I didn't get to go. It's amazing when like the hardest thing you're doing totally gets canceled on you. And but I think it was the best thing for me as well. I remember being very frustrated with it because I was going to take this leap, and that was huge for me. Huge. I kind of felt like a crazy person too during this. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You have a successful business, you have family, you have friends here. But it was just something like in my soul I needed to do.
Yeah.
So COVID happened, and I'm actually, don't tell everybody, but I'm kind of grateful for it. It was the slowdown I needed that essentially moving was going to give me. And I think it was such a great lesson because it wasn't me slowing down for a place. It was me slowing down kind of because I had to, but also reevaluating my own self, like, because I needed to as well. Like, how am I going to take me, this go productive American, to this country now and try to just be cool and chill and, I don't know, find a job, like, cool and chill. Like, that does not work at all. Come on. I look back and I'm like, oh, you poor silly girl. That's cute. You thought that. And you also thought that you're just going to like get a job and they're going to move you over there because you're so amazing. Like, no, none of this is happening. So I think with COVID, like, my business obviously completely shifted because events weren't happening anymore. So the work that I would do was not needed, but everybody was slowing down and living in their homes and realizing they wanted to put artwork on their walls or do a change, something that they hadn't done in a while. So my business shifted to being more of an artist again. And it was really like, I did some of the coolest projects, and like, I just really started to grow in that way. And like, my love for wanting to learn came back, where I was like, I think I want to explore a little bit more of this, and how can I do this? And so the whole process was really, I think, integral to all this. Again, like, this was the universe doing its magic. I couldn't have done this. I think it needed to happen. So then when, finally, I couldn't even think about moving because I can't do anything about this now. I literally have to wait for another country to say, yeah, it's okay for you to come over here. I think even the US was before them. We were much more fluid at the time than they were. So, and also being more practical, I was like, okay, why don't you go there for 3 months? Let's not just have that one-way ticket. Let's do this in a sensible way. Now you're thinking about a career shift of sorts. Like, it was just, again, these are fears that I have too, the sense of failure and not making it. Everything made me slow down and think about, like, how can we accomplish this in a way that is almost like petting my head and be like, it'll be okay. This will be okay during this whole process.
Yes.
So,
especially when talk about simmering, and then you had another, being already like, in that simmering mind, and then now the universe, the world, it's like, no, you're gonna simmer.
Right, this is what you're gonna do.
When you were trying to get out of feeling like you're simmered on something for too long.
Right. And also just like, what a I don't know, like put you in your place kind of moment to just be like, you're starting you're starting over.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to start at the top. You don't have to start at the top. And you don't have to have the perfect apartment even right off the bat. And you can build into this and grow into this and learn into this. I think that's part of my, I'm sure it's coupled with fears, like wanting the control of things and just also painting this picture now that I'm not a crazy person for what I'm doing. It's very easy for people to look at you and be like, oh my God, you're living the dream, you're doing this. But then like there's a reality there too, right?
Always.
Yeah. And I just always wanted to try and make the reality not so, I don't want to say not so real, but I don't know. It's just, I always wanted to keep it to where like, to show in a way that this was making sense. And in turn, trying to tell other people that it makes sense, I was also telling myself it makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably not the healthiest thing, but it's also what I needed a little bit too. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and kind of going a little bit about what other people were, saying to you, especially when you got your ticket and then you were, just had to wait essentially to make the big. So what kind of support and resistance did you find from friends and family during this time?
I think my parents were like, okay.
Yeah.
There's some slight relief there. I think too that like then when I'm going to do this for 3 months. That was also like, okay, maybe she's just going to go there for 3 months and like, it'll be just a good, like long trip she needed. And then she'll come back and get back to life as we know it. I think that was, part of it. But I also will say like my family's also been incredibly supportive as well. I don't want to discount that at all. And I think everybody that I've encountered with this and talked to about it and like, yep, I'm still going to do it. It's just eventually going to happen. The support was just, I think it's what everybody wants to do and just doesn't have the cojones to do it a lot of the time. Or at least like it sounds really great and people just don't, take the bold leap and do it. So there's a lot of, I've heard it a lot, living vicariously through me, which kind of is like nails on the chalkboard to me. But the support was there because I think this is something that people really want to see happen in general, because it just sounds so cool. So yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of pushback, honestly, for any of my steps going into it.
Did you have any self-discoveries that through this process?
Yeah, my superpower is
You're probably frozen in the last 30 seconds.
Like, I'm really good at making friends here. I'm more of a people person than I ever thought I was. I remember early in my art career being like, oh, just put me in a studio and nobody talk to me and it'd be great. And I'm just so not that anymore at all.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my like fine accomplishments was after those 3 months of being here, I decided to have I didn't call it a going away party. I was calling it a I'll see you later dinner party, because I was, again, so sad to be leaving for 3 months. Like, I didn't want to go back. And that was just, I already knew, like, I need to live here. I'll go back for 3 months, reset my visa clock, and I'll be back. But I was really sad to leave. But I had this dinner, and in 3 months, I was able to invite 20 people to it that I called friends. And I was like, okay, like, you'll be fine here as far as making friends and people and connections. I mean, the connections I make I have to tell myself this still because, you know, we tell ourselves stories and doubts and all that good stuff that's haunting all the time. But I will always be okay financially because of the connections I can make for work with people. Yeah. And I'm literally telling myself that right now in this time at this end of the year where things slowed down and I'm like, oh, you feel like you're bleeding money and because it's the holidays and all the stuff and like things are just slow. Things are just slow right now. And I'm like you will be okay. And even if you have to transition into something new, you're going to be okay because people are my strong skill set and making those connections. And that was something that I think was just super highlighted when I came out here. Yeah. I mean, I was telling you earlier, like last week was just so social. And one of my friends, I posted something on Instagram and she's like, "You're a social icon." And I was like, give me a break. Like, I have never been cool in my life. I just know a lot of people and I like all of them and want to be with all of them. And like, yeah, that's
Yes.
iconic. Yes. But I am very much like, I can confidently say, yes, it's my superpower now.
Yes.
Meeting.
Right.
And those connections with people. Like, there's nothing I love more than doing that. Like,
Yeah.
having a group of people I know and being like, you should meet this person because of this. And should meet this person. And yeah, I love it.
Networking. Yeah. And I love this element of being a business owner because it, like you said, it's just a different mindset that you're in. It'd be, I think, a completely different story if you made this choice as an employee or with a company. You know what I mean? So adding that element of trusting yourself and utilizing your skills to make that change is just a whole. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, really.
And you know, because I come with fears. Like, I'm not always the most confident person with it. Like, you know, I should go to this networking event for expats, and I don't know anyone there, and like, I don't really feel like going out, but you do it anyways, and you know, overcome or go sit at a bar by myself just to like, be out. And then I've met people that way too. Like right. There's like little scariness to it. That you just have to overcome, but you like, it's almost like that's the challenges I like that uncomfortableness. That's
100%. Because that's what makes business and being an entrepreneur so exciting is that you have the fears. They're not there. You have fears all the time. We're human, but moving on despite those fears, just saying, you know what, it'll be fine. You know, it's going to be uncomfortable.
What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? And that was, I think, something I had to tell myself regularly throughout this. And of course, everybody's automatic answer is, you can always move back home. Funny though, that was never an answer for me because that was not what I wanted to do. Like, well, no, that's not going to be the first solution that I'm going to go to because I love it here way too much. I need to figure out a different solution, even though that's the easy one. That just felt too easy and too, if I can't find work here in a month, let's say, you know, what's the worst that's going to happen to me? And everyone would always say, oh, well, you just go back home. And I was like, well, no, we've got to then just meet more and more and more and more people, or I have to really just beg for a job, or I you know, I really, and I think about this sometimes, like whenever I have these moments of, it's a homesickness to a certain extent. And so I'll sit and evaluate like, okay, is it because you want to be back there? And if you were, okay, let's say you're going to go back there. What are you going to do? What do you want your life to look like? And I can't imagine it any different than what it was. And I think that's really telling. Like, I just don't know I don't know what I would do. Whereas here, I'm like, well, it's very clear. I would just take a different path. I'd cross over a different bridge on a canal and find something different. Like, my brain cannot wrap the idea of going back and living a new life in a totally different way back in the States. Totally parents for it.
That's all right.
I can say no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's got to bring you a lot of comfort too, knowing that all of the challenges, all of the things that you had to overcome, from your beliefs to the obstacles to a pandemic, that it's like, it just makes it that much better knowing that.
Good choices.
Yes.
Good choices.
Yeah. Good choices. Hard. And like you said, full of fear and doubts, but yeah. And that's, really why I love this podcast, and the idea of this podcast is that, just giving people the courage to want better for themselves and to make those hard decisions, and not only the hard decisions, but to do the hard things, whether that's leaving family and friends, or, or figuring out your way, but that it's possible. It's totally possible. And either way is hard, and it's pick your heart. It's either in uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable either way, because you were uncomfortable, which,
no matter what. Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, it's hard, but I don't know if it's hard when you're in it. It's weird. It's weird to know, like, when it's hard. Like, it's hard when you look at the pile before you. It's hard taking that leap into that pile. But once you're in it, it's like little bits. I mean, I remember there was frustrations with, like, a housing thing here or there, like, or getting my social security number out here. Like, I got it really quick. It was stressful whether or not I was going to get it. And so like, that was hard, dealing with more or less the emotions that go with those tasks that are hard, but the actual task of getting it, not hard.
Yeah.
And know what your boundaries are too. Like, I hired a lawyer for things because I know myself now. I know myself as, like, I'm going to stress out about doing things right, doing things on time, not forgetting something. I don't want to mess this up. So I can worry a lot and stress a lot, make myself sick over it. Or I can hire somebody and spend money and let them do that for me. Let them do the hard stuff for me. I can do it. Do I want to? Do I need to? And I did. So yeah, I needed to put my focus into other things, which was like, my lawyer's not going to get me a job. Let me work on that part of it. And that's where my strength lies. He's got his strength to do the logistical part of things. So I think, like, that it's like you can gauge what is really hard too. And because when I look back on it now, I mean, I've had people ask me, like, how did you do this? And I was like, I don't know, like, just did it. Like,
yeah, one bite at a time.
Right? I know when I was in it, like, yeah, it was intense, but it's probably, I mean, I imagine it's like giving birth. When you're in it, you're just in this, like, fog of something. Yes, it's so hard, but then you're done with it and you're like, well, yeah, I guess it was hard, but
right. But you do it, yes, and you trust the experts. That's the other. I mean, spoken like a true, a good business owner that you are. You always find the people that are smarter than you in the areas that, so you can be you can do the things that you love and that you're skilled at. Leave the rest up to a professional. Just find the professionals that help you navigate those things.
Use your time wisely in that sense too. Like, what I didn't want to move out here and just be so stressed by the whole system. And I mean, I have an accountant out here. I have a lawyer out here. Like, I don't want to dislike, like, put a bad taste on this place because of things that I'm not good at or skilled at or would cause me stress. So put that on them. Let's keep this rosy here.
So how has this bold change influenced your perception of success? Because I know we talked about, and that's very common. A lot of people don't make bold changes because they are scared of failure. And failure means something different to everybody, just like happiness and success means something different to everybody. But has it changed your perception of happiness and success?
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like in different like elements of my life, I can say like if I think about my life sometimes in categories of like, okay, family, friends, home, work, and maybe free time. That kind of like these are these elements, right? And when the variables are off, like some variables may be steady, so that you can deal with the ones that are off. And when the other ones are steady, the other ones can go off. So I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I know my location is a steady variable right now. I'm starting to feel my work get a little bit, and I might be just the time of year, but it's feeling a little bit unbalanced, and not unbalanced in the I'm working too much way, but just like a teeter totter, just like not stable. And I'm coming out here like I wanted more stability, but I think like I'm like ready for a different challenge.
Your perception of success and happiness, has it changed?
Yes. Yes. I think I'm learning to trust my intuition more, way more than I ever did, because it has, I think through this whole process, it has been so good. Like scary, creepy good. From the people that I've met, from the people that I'm like, I'm going to trust you on this. And yes, we will be friends.
Yes.
And that person works out amazingly. And so I'm really learning to like listen to myself more. And I can hear myself right now, that inner talk, the positive inner talk, saying that like, something's there's a challenge of some sort on the way, career shift, something, I don't know. And this is when I know I need to use my strengths for those people connections to see where that leads to. And I always thought that like I remember reading this at one point. I'm a Scorpio, and it was like in this intro paragraph for this book that I have about astrology or whatever. And it says Scorpios always wait for the red carpet to be put out in front of them to lead them to their path. And I was like, I felt like it was cheating almost. Like I wasn't doing the work, but essentially I am doing the work. It's the intuition that's doing the work in me and leading me to these paths that then I, actively participate in. And I'm doing the judgment of whether it's a good idea or not. And so I think that, I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but like, I know that also like the success of whatever that path takes me doesn't have to be like monumental of any sort. Like it's good in small doses. It's good for another step or another person or another this. The connections are so important to me in that way. So I kind of just have to trust. I'm learning to trust myself a lot more in that respect. I'm even just my home right now. I'm like, housing is really hard here. And I've been struggling like, do I buy something? Do I find something somewhere else? Do I do this? And I'm like, whoa. Look, it'll come when it comes. In the meantime, you can settle in here a little more. You can take these pieces of art off the walls that you don't like and put your stuff up. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I've been learning Dutch for the year, and I still need so good, but I'm working with private lessons for that, so I think I want to integrate in that way more. And then find this job challenge, I don't know, pathway, and just kind of read that a little bit more. So I think it's going to be tapping back into that intuition, like now that I'm very settled in being here, like that's not a question for me. Like, oh, am I gonna stay or gonna go? Stay or go? Like, I'm staying. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
I think it's more like, okay, how do I want the rest, the every day to play out a little bit more?
Yeah.
New Year. And I've never done it where I've like sat down and really wanted to think about like, okay, what trips do I want to take this year? And I think I'm going to do that. Like, here's the top few that I'd like to go on, and here's some things I want to invest in, and I don't know. So it's very, it feels different.
I love it.
It feels different. Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of a word. This year mine was networking, because I've been in a small business bubble, just nose to the grindstone, don't look up, figure this shit out. And this year was networking, but like you, just it's like, this is my word and we'll see where it goes. And here I am networking with people on a podcast, and I love the idea of just having a word where you're not stuck to anything, or like a stupid resolution where you feel like you're setting yourself up for failure.
And treating the word how you see it too. Like, networking doesn't mean you're going to like, happy hours and be like, hi, my name is Mari.
Right.
Like, no. Yeah. So
and just connecting with people again, just connecting and talking to people, and just making it a priority to spend more time with people, especially people that that I look up to, or that just because personal growth is obviously extremely important to me, and I know my perception of happiness is growing and giving, and when I'm doing those two things, I'm happy. So
right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also like learning more about you too, and it takes you on the next path.
Yes. And that and your intuition and those, and knowing yourself, are muscles that you have to constantly exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm gonna I've got my little notes over here. And
I love your glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I've had them for quite a while, and I love glasses. They're like shoes for me,
Yeah.
You can never have too many pair. But I had my dreadlocks for so long that I'm like, it might be too much. It's like, I love being bold, but I also don't want to be like not approachable.
Oh my God, the rainbow.
You know what I mean? So since I took my dreads out, I'm like, I'm gonna get out my sassy glasses, my glittery sassy glasses.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for others who are contemplating similar changes or making just bold changes in their life? What kind of advice can you offer based off of your experience for other people?
Yeah, I think, the thing that stops everybody is fear. So figuring out what those fears are and continuously saying, what's the worst that could happen? And I mean, I'm not saying that in a just very surface way, but like, no, really, okay, what is the worst that could happen? What would be the worst thing? Because I remember doing this with like my finances, and be like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen if I don't get a job? Okay, well, I have to tap into my savings. Okay, what's worse than that? I would have to maybe ask my parents for money again. Okay, what's worse than that? I'm sleeping on a park bench or going to a shelter or something. Like, okay, is there anything worse than that? I'm like, that's pretty much the worst. Okay, are you going to ever let that happen? No. So guess what? Take that off the table. Like, I'm never going to let it, it's never going to result to that. So it's not even a worst fear, because it's almost unrealistic. So I think analyzing on that, like going down the tunnel of fear, and versus telling yourself a story, is it real? Is it actually realistic? Is it a realist? I mean, it's a real fear, but is it realistic as in it could really come to life and you're going to have to battle it? Because it's more than likely not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
Because it's so
That's
easy
great
to say,
advice.
what's the worst that could happen? And oh my God, will I fail and then nothing works out? And like, okay, yes, we're like building this cloud that is just stuff, like really hone in on it. And I think it makes you analyze the situation much, much better, much easier. It's been amazing. Yes, my family is ultimate supportive. I never doubted really that they wouldn't be. And that's why I don't think to like put them on this high pedestal. So I was like, of course they, like, we've always been supportive of each other.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it is interesting to see who your friends are after you do this kind of a move and who reaches out and who still wants to like, I mean, there's a 7-hour time difference with Chicago. So like who still wants to hop on a Zoom call or call you up just whenever, because not knowing maybe where you are time zone wise and just trying to see if they're reachable. And I'm like, oh, hey, so glad you called. Is it like, 11 o'clock at night there? And I'm like, no, it's 8. Or, whatever. Sometimes people think I'm so far across the planet here. So I appreciate that kind of stuff because there's a normality to it, a familiarity to it that I do miss. And I think that's where like the homesickness comes a little bit, that, just picking up a phone and being like, hey, what's going on? But then
like, I'm still here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Does make me feel like still relevant, still, to a circle of people. So I really appreciate that from the people back in the US. And then from here, I mean, the people that have embraced me and that now make like my family here. Like I definitely have a family here. And because that is a challenge. I can make friends with this mug, but who could I call if something is going on that I'm like, oh crap, whatever, someone that you can just lean into. Can we please go get a drink really quick? Or, oh, it's Thanksgiving. Who am I going to spend that holiday with? Even though like it's not celebrated here. I don't know if I care enough, but who can I reach out to for these things that like you do just want that piece of home and they start to feel like home for you. Those people I'm really, really grateful for. And some of them are Dutch and some of them are American. And I mean, I have friends from all over the place here too. So I'm loving that as well.
Yeah. And I love that.